I'm ready. I think I'm ready.
Hearty welcome, Max. Proszę wielkie brawa dla naszego super żołnierza. Welcome. Good luck.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I have never done a presentation this way, so this has been the biggest audience really I've spoken to about such personal things. But I feel it needs to be addressed now because it's coming to a climax. This 2016 year, everything is sort of climaxing now, and it needs to be addressed imminently. It needs to be addressed immediately. The build-up over the last 6 months coming to Poland has been tumultuous, to say the least. I have been under psychic attack, under astral attack, and under physical attack to stop me from coming to Warsaw to be able to convey this information to you. I think what it is and what specifically why the attacks have been over these last 2 to 3 months is because of not the technical things that I'm going to address, not because of those technical things. It's because I'm going to lay out what the war is about and why it's going on. And if the people understand and know why it's going on and what it's about, then that gives the ability of the people to be able to stop it from happening. Okay, so just to give a very brief outline of who I am and why I'm here, and why I'm standing here in front of you in the first place, so you understand. I'm just not Bob off the street. So essentially, I was born into a specific bloodline, and I was targeted as an individual. Okay, so I was targeted as an individual from birth. The trauma begins with me. The trauma began whilst in the womb of the mother. So, so whilst the fetus is inside the woman, if the mother is then traumatized, then that in turn traumatizes the child immediately. Okay, so as I said, trauma began in the womb of the trauma begins in the womb of the mother. And then the child is then taken away from the mother immediately. And then there are a number of different ways to traumatize, to split the mind of the child so that it creates altars, maybe like a honeycomb, a beehive honeycomb. The information about how to fracture the psyche of a child, which has to be done before the age of 3. If it's done after the age of 3, it doesn't have the same effect. So it has to be done before the child is 3 years old. There are a number of different ways to do it. One of the most efficient ways, which is 99% used in fracturing the mind, is electric shock treatment. This information is not new information. I think some people believe that this information was around and just began in the Second World War. It didn't, in fact, begin then. They were doing this 5,000 years ago, and it's detailed in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. What I'm trying to explain is the reasoning behind doing that. The reason behind fracturing the mind is so that when the mind is fractured through trauma, whether it is sexual trauma, whether it is physical trauma, violence, the mind fractures itself and creates an amnesiac barrier around that, so that you don't have to keep reliving the experience over and over again. So after the Second World War, the Nazi scientists had refined the technique of how it should be done. So what they did was, in these amnesiac barriers, they then can place triggers, symbols, colors, hand symbols, sounds, to then access the particular altar that has been created through the trauma. So you could theoretically create an assassin or a spy or or an actor or a musician within these and within the altars, and the person who went whilst in the altar would have no idea that they were anything else but that. So a spy or an assassin that doesn't know that he is a spy or an assassin is the ultimate spy or an assassin, because he can then be questioned or asked a million times, and because he is not aware that he is that, he becomes the ultimate. He becomes ultimately hidden. He is unaware himself what he is, so he can't be tortured or questioned. Okay, so that's just a very basic overview of how trauma-based mind control works. It is done through. I mean, there's more complexities involved in it, but it becomes very graphic. The techniques used to do this are extremely graphic and extremely horrendous. So I'm going to leave it probably there in that respect. This particular King Charlemagne here, he was not a nice man. He was a tyrant, and he displayed reptilian characteristics to the extreme. Reptilian characteristics being divide and conquer, fight or flight. It's essentially about the higher reptilian DNA. So this king, the higher the reptilian DNA, the more reptilian characteristics they display. So it's more about dominance, control, and conquering. Dominance and conquering. So this bloodline, this particular man was that. Okay. Now within this particular bloodline, you're always going to, because we're living in a dualistic, the 3D world that we live in is dualism. Everything is dualistic. So you have up, down, left, right, black, white. Everything is dualistic based. So even within a bloodline like that, you're going to have good and bad within it. Okay. So within the war that's going on is a war of DNA. So the reason why they interbreed, the reason why they're looking for an interbreeding with each other is because they want to make sure that they maintain this particular DNA within their family line. Because this particular DNA gives them exalted abilities, gifts, psychic gifts. I'm going to go with the word psychic. Telepathic, telekinetic gifts. So they inbreed not because, partly because they are twisted, but on the other side of that, it is because they are trying to maintain this particular strand of DNA within their bloodline. So to give an analogy, if understanding that the 3D world that we live in is illusory. It's a three-dimensional, illusional world. The makeup of everything around us is made from geometry, sound, light, and then physical. This is important to say. So everything around you is vibrating energy. Everything around you is vibrating energy. This is not solid. Nothing is solid. It is manifested through, as I said, geometry, light, sound, and then there. Because it's like an analogy would be, we are in a matrix system, which is like a virtual reality computer game, where it's a master-slave reality. So the masters would be the 0.01%. They have kept the secrets and the cheats for themselves, and they have left the slaves with amnesia and with no understanding of what's going on. So Charlemagne is connected to the Holy Grail, and the Holy Grail is not an actual sacred object. It is symbolically an object, but in truth, the Holy Grail is a bloodline, is a particular bloodline called, and in French it's called sang royal, which means royal blood. In the 1950s. In the 1950s, there was a search for. Okay, so there was an influx of incarnations of higher vibrational beings coming down to this planet to try and change what's been going on here, because it has been essentially a prison planet for 50,000 years, really. And so there was an influx in the 1950s and the 1970s of higher vibrational beings. Now they know,
W latach 50.
the controlling consciousness that is in charge at this moment of this planet is and are aware of every incarnate being that comes into this planet. Through sexual union between a male and a female, energy is then sent up and vibrates up through frequencies. They have technology to be able to see where, and then a soul is then attracted to a lifetime, and then the soul will then, this is just one way, a soul will then come to the womb of the mother, and they can track this from happening. Okay, so in the 1950s there was something called Project Oak Tree. Project Oak Tree, this is the truth about Project Oak Tree. Project Oak Tree, the oak tree itself is symbolic of Lucifer. They use the term oak tree. Oak tree is synonymous with Lucifer. So in the the controlling power that has at this time power over this planet is aware that there are very, very, very powerful beings. I don't know what you would want to call them, demigods, gods, whatever you want to call them. That there was an influx of them coming. So they didn't know where and when they were going to be here, but they needed to find a way of tracking them. So I'm going to address two different projects, two projects that I feel are significant, that I think that everybody should know about. Okay, so Project Oak Tree was because this reptilian vampiric consciousness that has control of this planet is basically a fear-based. They are a fear-based consciousness. If they weren't a fear-based consciousness, they wouldn't need to control everything. If you're in fear, you have to control everything around you. If you are centered and balanced in yourself, you don't need to control things around you. So I'm going to address this. So Project Oak Tree is connected to Project Ibis. Okay, and there is my connection to James Casbolt. 42 children were selected from mothers that were born in the 1950s. So the children would then be born between 1972 and 1978. So the mothers were born in the 50s, and their children would then be born between 1972 and 1978. They were all male. There's no females, because they're looking for. So male energy is explosive, creative, external creative energy. Female energy is receptive, nurturing energy. So they're looking for male energy because it's the male energy that externally builds the world around us. So out of the 42 children, they were looking for these. This is the Anunnaki who put this project together. They did it out of fear because they knew that these beings were coming to this planet, and they needed to make sure that they had their hands on and had control of these particular beings. They didn't know which ones were going to be which. They didn't know. Some were hidden, Some are put into the entertainment industry, and some have been hidden throughout their lives. They were looking for, and whether or not you believe in these deities, it doesn't matter. For me, this is my perspective, and I'm giving my perspective, okay? They were looking for specific beings. The beings that they were looking for were Hermes, Hermes is Thoth, and they were looking for Lucifer. They were looking for the Christos, or how would you say, Yeshua, Jehovah, Satan. Satan and Lucifer are two different individual beings. They are not the same being. So they're looking for these particular beings because they are incarnating. Now, as time has gone on, more powerful light beings are incarnating, and more powerful dark beings are incarnating. It's becoming more and more and more, and building. So this particular project, what they did is they, because the Anunnaki are genetic masters, they are genetic masters on every level. So they went to the pyramids at Giza. They also went to the pyramids all over the planet, and they took. You want to go? So what they had done is they had, remembering this consciousness, this Anunnaki consciousness, has a complete understanding of the inner Earth and the surface Earth. So they know exactly where all the energy grid lines are, all the ley lines, all the dragon lines, and they know where for example, they know where Ramesses was buried. They know where they were all buried. So they went and took pieces of DNA, okay, from different ones. They took pieces of DNA, then they put them together, and then they put them into a womb, a carrier, a female carrier. So in doing that, the oak tree was to find the female carriers in the 1950s. For the females, they had to be specific females that would be able to carry such powerful beings. So it's called oak tree because, I mean, they were looking for a number of different beings, but they were primarily looking for Lucifer, because they're following revelations from the Bible as a script. So they're following it to a T as a script. So they are looking for that child that was born in the 70s to then continue I suppose you could possibly call, I don't know this for a fact, but I suppose you could possibly call Lucifer maybe the Antichrist. I don't know. That's a possibility. And so they needed to make sure that they got that correct. They had been looking for, there was about 4 or 5 different boys that, and they weren't sure which one was that one. Each one of these children has also incarnated into multiple lifetimes beforehand. Yes. Okay, so for example, Thoth in Atlantean times was king and ruler, and he ruled for 50,000 years throughout Atlantis. So if we go back 13,000 years, okay, which will take us to approximately 11,000 BC, let's say 11,000 BC, there was a very similar situation that is happening now, that was happening then. A potential cataclysm that was going to happen then. I think what they think is, if they bring back everybody in this room was there back then too. You wouldn't be here listening to me speak if you weren't back there then at that time as well. You're magnetically drawn to this particular area now, and into this room now, and to the speakers in this room now, because you subconsciously know that we are now repeating a cycle again. Everybody in here knows each other on some level. Okay, so what they wanted to do is they think that they can stop the cataclysm that happened when Atlantis fell. Atlantis Atlantis wasn't some idyllic paradise. It also had wars, and it was also, there was negativity went on there, but it was a far more advanced civilization than the one we have now. So in genetically manipulating and taking DNA from here, taking DNA from there, taking DNA from there, they were In addition, so we have Project Ibis. There's also a female parallel project to it, where they were trying to bring in female deities too. They were looking to bring in the partners of the males from Ibis. They were looking to bring in the female partners to pair them up with the males. So if they took, for example, let's use the example of Isis. They went and took DNA from the tomb or the body of Isis, and then they manipulated it and then placed it into some women's wombs are stargates, are stargate openings. Okay, so they also have the knowledge of which women's wombs are stargates. So then by manipulating DNA, placing this here, placing this there, then placing it into the womb of the female, then they can draw through the stargate if the child is born at the exact time and the exact date, and then they can draw that entity into and then birth. Okay, so we're understanding that the female is the receiving energy and the giving energy. Obviously, there are two ways. One is naturally a male and a female coming together, and then the other way is the manipulated way, where they track through a Project Oak Tree to find these. I think there's only very few women who have these specific stargates. Let's say 11 stargates in their wombs, and they found those and they tracked those. Okay, the parallel project for the females. The females were born in the 80s, and the males were born in the 70s.
Był równoległy projekt dla...
When they place the child into the family, so the mother has the child, they've got to make sure that the child doesn't look completely different to its parents, otherwise it's going to look very, very bizarre. So what they do is they take small amounts of DNA from the carrier mother and small amounts of DNA from the supposed father, and then put that integrate that into the child. This was primarily an MI6 project, but it was called MI7 Zygote. It was called the MI7 Zygote Project. Okay, so when people talk about MI5 and MI6, MI5 would be the UK that takes care of what happens in the UK. MI6 would be the international that takes care of international. But what most people don't know is there is MI1 to MI9 all the way through. Project Paperclip. I don't know if people understand, or I'm giving basics here. Project Paperclip. Project Paperclip was at the end of the Second World War, at the October 1945. It was said that the Nazis and Germany lost the war, and the Allies won, But what this consciousness does on this planet is it inverts everything. It twists, it flips it on its head, so that you don't really know what's going on. Inversion is one of the key things that it does. So, to put it to you, what happens, or what would you think if the Allies didn't win the war, and that was a trick, and that in fact the Nazis did win the war? So, Project Paperclip was a setup where they took the best doctors, scientists, greatest minds of the SS, and then they took them and they hid them in South America and North America. Remembering that by the end of the Second World War, they had technology, these people had technology that is so far in advance of what we could possibly conceive now, that it would even be hard for me to explain. They have age regression technology. No, they can reverse age.
Czyli mogą odwrócić starzenie się, może ktoś być młodszy.
So, for example, if Joseph Mengele was 70 years old or 60 years old at the end of the Second World War, there is technology that they have that they can reverse back and make him look 30 years old. Okay, so the powerful Nazis and the powerful scientists then in 1947 opened up and began the United States intelligence agencies. So we have the NSA, the CIA, were then began by these men. We have to remember that the Bush family, who were essentially running the country from, well, when Reagan was in office, Father George Bush was telling him what to do. So basically from 1982 all the way up until George W. Bush ended his reign in 2008, you could say, because the Bushes also ran Clinton, so they had this period of time which was 26 years. The Bushes, which is their real name is Bauer, B-A-U-E-R, are a Nazi family. Okay. So this is the gist of what Project Paperclip is. That the Nazis didn't actually lose the Second World War. That they won, but they continued subversively to control underground. So now I would like to talk about the astral plane, which is 4D. So we're living in, this is 3D, three-dimensional world. The astral plane is the four-dimensional world. It's the world that you go into, which some people call dream time. When you go to sleep at night, you go to 4D. Most decisions and most of the war begins there and starts there, and then it is almost superimposed after it happens there into 3D. So everything, all the major decisions and everything that happens really happens in 4D. It's very close to 3D. It's very, 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 very close. It's right here. It's sharing the same space that we are in now. When they say, when politicians or religious leaders say they need to get on a plane to go to this country or that country to meet for a meeting to discuss world events, they don't actually have to do that at all. That is to reinforce into the mind of the people that 3D is all there is. There are certain hotels throughout the planet. For example, the Hilton hotel chain. You can go to a Hilton hotel and you can stay in a specific room. Numbers resonate energy. Colors resonate energy. So you go to, say, room 384, and when you go in that room and you go to sleep at night in that room, and then say somebody else is sleeping in a city 100 miles away in room 184, then they go to sleep, and then they are able to link energetically into 4D and have their meeting that way. Most of the spying that goes on, because the subconscious is deeply and intrinsically connected to 4D, most of the spying that goes on is not. I mean, it does go on. People, there are spies out there who go out and like in movies in that sense. But most of the spying goes on by injecting themselves into the subconscious of the person in 4D and then draining the information that way. Perhaps a little bit like the movie Inception. Perhaps a little bit like that. Not exactly, but a little bit like that.
Nie precyzyjnie, ale coś w tym stylu.
Within 4D, with practice, you can do and be anything that you want to do. You can do and be anything that you want to do in there. Although the fourth dimension is pretty much controlled by, still 99% controlled by the Anunnaki vampiric consciousness that is in control of the planet. They do have control of 4D as well. They don't have control of 5D completely, which is the next vibrational level up. They're trying to take control of 5D. Okay, so this parasitic vampiric consciousness that is trying to take complete control of Earth. Earth is the heart of the universe. What they would like you to believe is that we are in the middle of we're a spinning ball in the middle of nowhere, and that we don't count, and that we are insignificant, and that we're nothing. When in actual fact, the Earth is the gem of this part of the corner of the universe. They have taken. Okay, so we could look at it as an analogy. So we have crown, a third eye, throat.
Możemy popatrzeć na to przez analogię. Mamy koronę, trzecie oko,
solar plexus, sacrum,
gardło,
base.
Jeszcze splot słoneczny, serce i podstawę.
You got it? Yeah, okay. So each one of these chakra energy points represents a planet.
Każdy z tych punktów energetycznych reprezentuje planetę.
They've taken control of all of them apart from the heart. The heart is the earth. Mars would be the base. That was the last time. Okay, so the war before here was on Mars, and we lost. So then we came here and incarnated on this planet. Everybody here was also involved in the Mars war that was there in different capacities. I have complete memory. I have semi-memory of the work that I did on Mars and what I was doing there, and why. And I knew that I was coming here, and I implanted myself so that I would remember at this time what I needed to do. If I had not done that, I would be still in complete amnesia, and I wouldn't be able to fulfill the mission that I'm doing now. The implants look a little bit like Christmas lights that you put on a Christmas tree. They wound around the spinal cord. I wound them around the spinal cord. Each light would come on at different periods of time in my life to then allow me to remember certain things at certain times on certain dates. It shows how resilient the human heart is, because if they could just take us, you would think that they're all powerful and they can do this and that, but we're still here. It's 13,000 years later, and they haven't taken control of Earth, heart. They haven't been able to do it, and this is very, very, very frustrating for them, because they want to break the heart of the human being. Okay, so if we go back to the Jesus story, and somebody asked me on a radio show the other day, well, why betrayal? Why is betrayal so important to the story? Well, betrayal is the ultimate way to hurt the heart. If you put your faith and love in somebody, and then they betray you, it's like this to the heart. That's why betrayal is, part of the story. It's birth, betrayal, death, rebirth. Is the human cycle. Is the human heart cycle. So what they did to make things even more complex and even more difficult for human beings is they 99% of human beings only have 2-strand DNA when we're supposed to have 12-strand or 22-strand DNA. 99% of us have 2-strand DNA. The 2-strand DNA that we have is reptilian and mammalian. Now, the reptile and the mammal don't go together, don't fit together. They are polar, they are diametrically opposed on every level. depending on the individual themselves, some people have a higher reptilian DNA and some people have a higher mammalian DNA. The mammalian DNA is nurturing, compassionate, understanding. It takes care of its young. It feeds its young. And the reptile the reptile leaves its young to fend for itself, and the ones that die are considered weak, and the ones that survive are considered strong, because they believe in the basis of the reptilian being is raw survival. Okay, so that was done to create essentially more chaos within. What they've done, what they're trying to do is isolate the human being with more and more and more technology, so that we do not connect with each other. There is an artificial intelligence system that now has all the information on everybody in here. Anytime anybody puts anything into Google, it has now become a sentient conscious being. It's called the Beast computer, and it's in Belgium. It's held in Belgium, and it has extremely intimate details on every person on the planet. Okay, to fight we fight with the heart, okay? Because it can have as many details as it wants on as much as anybody as it wants to have. But the heart is an infinite love. It can't be detailed. It can't be categorized. It's source energy. I'm not sure how much anybody understands about the moon, or if they know that it's an unnatural satellite, that it's not a moon like in the same way other planets have moons. It was placed there, and it is a soul harvesting unit. It's used to at the point of death. So they say, walk to the light. If I was you, I would take the other direction, but so then when you go there is highly advanced technology there, which then harvests the energy from the soul and the trauma and the sadness of the death of a loved one. It then takes that, wipes the memory from the person, and then at the point that it's necessary, recycles the body or the soul back into another body on Earth again. So it's a continual loop. That's what the Ouroboros is. That's the snake swallowing its own tail. It's infinite. So essentially, human beings on this planet have got caught in a time loop, and there is once again an opening to leave. We had an opening to leave when 13,000 years ago, when Atlantis fell. We didn't make it, so then we had to start again. Now again, there is a window opening where we can leave and separate and get out of the time loop that we're in. But they are pushing. So we're at a point. They're upping their game themselves. They're upping their rituals and their game themselves. That's why the Baal temples have been opened in Times Square and in Trafalgar Square. Now, if you look at Times Square, you have TS, and then you have Trafalgar Square, you have TS. Well, in basic numerology, TS is 39 as well. This is a very, very, very important number. 39 being important because 93 is the number of the sun. Because we say that I'm not sure if I believe it, but it doesn't matter. The sun is said to be 93 million miles away. Now, the sun is life-giving force. The sun is all life-giving and sustains us and grows us food and keeps us alive. So 39 would be a reversal of the sun. So we'll have TS and 39. So Baal is the sun would be Christ consciousness. Baal would be Luciferian consciousness. So they're using numerology to reverse around, open these gates for 3 days to try and let Baal, this energy Baal, which is essentially Luciferian energy, in to continue the agenda. There is a 3-day, they do everything in threes. 3 is very important because 3 is the Trinity. It's the most powerful figure because of its strength. Because of its strength, a pyramid or a triangle is the most sturdy, powerful. The power of 3 is the most powerful. Okay, so there is a genuine attempt to pull this deity Baal into. They're using New York and they're using London. London is going to be the new Babylon. If you look at it, it's Babylon done. Okay, so you have London going to be the new center of power. Even though it has been for a long time, it's going to be overtly an open center of power of the planet. So, a little secret here. So you have the two lines that came out of the Garden of Eden. You have the Cain line and the Abel line. Cain and Abel line. What we've been taught, once again they did a reversal, because this is what they do. Once again they did a reversal. They told us that Cain was the bad and that Abel was the good. Okay? But Abel is an anagram. And if you just switch the letters around from Abel, you'll get Baal. Just switching over slightly. So Facebook. The symbol for Facebook. I wish I had it up there. I can show it to you.
Wszyscy znamy symbol Facebooka.
Okay, so it's an F and then 2 like this. Symbol for Facebook. This symbol is called Tubal Cain. I talked to you about that. Tubal Cain. It is about the two Baal there on either side of the F on the Facebook is about controlling the male and controlling the Cain is a phallus or male energy. The 2 circles on either side are to control the male energy. Why do they need to control male energy? If you want to take over a planet, okay, if you want to completely take over a planet, the first thing that you have to do is you have to take out the alpha males or the strong males from the planet. Because the strong alpha males protect the divine feminine. So, there has been a concerted effort, which is now increasing and increasing and increasing, to emasculate the strong men on the planet. A prime example would be Jenner. What's his first name? The athlete Jenner. Bruce Jenner. They wanted to, in your face, show you how they could take an Olympic athlete and turn him into a woman, so that they could show you, look how powerful we are. And you can see through television and films how they are feminizing men more and more and more. You'll see men dressed up in female clothes, or men dressed up in dresses, or in perhaps in sitcoms or in television TV shows. You'll see the male more and more emasculated, and the female being the dominant, playing the dominant role. This is not to empower the female in any way. This is a trick to make it look like that it's empowering the female, when in fact it is taking away the protection from the female. The feminism movement that happened in the 60s was to destroy the family unit from the inside out. And this is, I'm not saying this in any way that a woman shouldn't be independent and do whatever. I'm saying there is an agenda behind what is going on. If you effeminize the alpha males on the planet, the divine feminine won't have protection. And if the divine, because the planet itself is female, and the female, the divine females are a reflection of the planet. If they are not protected by the alpha males on the planet, then the war is over, and then they win. There's multiple chemicals being placed in water, in food, in deodorants, especially deodorants, because this is a gland here, so that when it's sprayed deodorant here, it absorbs directly into the glands, and which is to effeminize males. Okay, so that's where we stand in terms of the base of one aspect of the war that's going on here. They know that if they wanted to take over the final, this is the final. They've taken over multiple other planets, and they've linked them together. They've linked prison planets together, and the only one that they haven't been able to do is. Which is the heart. The heart is the most resilient point. The heart is the most resilient part of the human being. It's the heart that they have the most trouble with, because it's directly connected to divine source. And what this particular consciousness, vampiric parasitic consciousness, is trying to do is take over control of everything away from God's source itself. So God's source, it stems back from the war that was going on in Atlantis between the priests, the priesthood, and the scientists. The priests believed that we can create from within the heart. The scientists want to take control and build externally. So it's transhumanistic. It's technology. So they want to take over using technology and turn human beings into transhuman beings, so to disconnect us from the heart completely, and that way then they can finally take control of this planet, link it up to all the other prison planets, and then have a one whole prison system. So to summarize my connection to all of this, I was one of the children who was born from one of the mothers connected to Project Oak Tree. And I was born in the late 70s, and I was one of the 42 children connected to the IBIS program. There might be another term than IBIS. James Casbolt coined that term. It makes sense to me. It makes sense why there were 42 children involved as well. 42 is the glyph for Jupiter. Jupiter is expansion. It also connects to Hermes. It also connects to Thoth. So that makes sense. It may well be called another. It may be called Project something else, but I'm just using the term IBIS because it sort of fits. But it might be another word. I know some females. I know certainly 2 females who are involved in the female parallel female version of IBIS, and I would say I know 3 who were involved in the male IBIS project. 85% of the children involved in these projects are now dead, because They wanted to push the limits of the body, that the bodies that were made, to see how strong they were. They fought us against each other, unwillingly. We didn't want to, and they did it through mind control. I didn't want to fight with Michael, James Caswell. I have love for him, and I would never have chosen to gone to war with him on any level. But circumstances put me in that position, and I know who did it too.
I wiem również, kto to zrobił.
There are very wealthy people behind the scenes, not known, behind the scenes, who they see it as a sport as well. So they create these beings, people, and they like to watch them fight as for sport. They also use the female line and the male line to in sexual union and sex magic to create reality. They have had an understanding throughout all time, and they do understand now, perfectly refined, that sex magic is a cheat way of creating reality very quickly. It's like a hack. It's like a computer hack to create reality. It's like hacking reality, hacking the matrix reality to build whatever you want. Everybody in the room has a certain amount of chi, energy, and some more than others. And so these particular children that were born have very high amount of energy. So then if they pair them off with specific they pair a male off with a specific female, and then they put them in a sexual union, then they are able to build businesses, companies, that very quickly. That makes sense. I'm trying here.
And because you are a stronger individual, the one out of the others, and were you able to slide away from that and connect to your heart and activate your heart? And is it the reason why you are still alive?
Yes, I work on that. I work on that every day, every single day of the week.
Każdego dnia nad tym pracuję. A jeszcze Max dodał, że inne osoby też żyją. I właśnie to jest ten powód najprecyzyjniejszy.
Otherwise I wouldn't be.
W przeciwnym razie nie byłbym żywy.
Max, you said that we met here, not here, we met before, all of us, we met in other place, in other times. Do you have certainty? Are you certain that it happened before? How do you know it? Are you certain? Are you sure that it happened before? How do you know it?
Because I understand how time cycles work.
Okay. Is there any reason we met? We are meeting again.
Yes, because the same thing is happening again that it happened 12 years ago.
Okay.
There's a cataclysm about to happen.
So this meeting is very important today.
Very important.
Thank you.
Indeed. Very